So change of focus a little bit. What do you think about sort of what I'm calling the reemergence of the internet startup scene in New York?
Well, I think it's been re-emerging for quite a while. I mean, I joined this scene, back in sort of late '04, early '05, when I started working for Union Square Ventures. And, I was certainly guilty of growing up here in New York, being distracted by the sort of Wall Street world. I worked in institutional finance and didn't really know there was a technology scene. When I started first working in venture, the New York Tech Meetup was 30 people in the back of Scott's offices. And now they can barely contain the 750 people that show up at FIT once a month. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's fantastic because I think what's nice is I think a lot of the pieces have always been in place. Access to customers, critical mass of technologists. I mean, look, they may not have all been working for startups, but there was never any shortage of engineering and programming talent in New York. They were just working on real-time trading applications at Goldman Sachs, which, by the way, is an interesting technical challenge.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think, knock the financial scene as something that is, not as worthwhile. But if I'm a programmer and I know that whatever I, build is going to be used by hundreds of thousands of traders today, that's pretty cool, actually. And I think startups need to realize that because technical people are looking for great challenges. There's never been a shortage of money in New York. It's New York. I mean, I think there is a reemergence of dedicated, early stage, knowledgeable money. Entrepreneurs who've done this before are coming back to make angel investments who can really add a lot of value. I think there's certainly been a reemergence in the community.
Yeah.
That you can be someone who doesn't know a lot of startups, doesn't have a lot of startup experience, and very quickly get ramped up in terms of who are the people to connect to, where to get your information from, where to do hiring, that sort of thing.
You wrote in your blog a year ago, and actually a couple of days ago, that there was, a year ago, a huge gap in early stage financing, and you wrote a couple of days ago about Angel Forum and how that gap is closed or solved. Do you really think it's solved?
I think so. I mean, I think in New York, there's a number of very smart sources to get early stage or angel money. And the interesting thing is if you polled the whole entrepreneurship scene, most people would probably disagree, but that's because less than 10 or 5% of all entrepreneurs pitching ever get financed at all.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's very fascinating that, poll 100 entrepreneurs and people who, say that they have an entrepreneurial idea. Is it easy to get money? If the system works well, the answer should be no. Because frankly, most ideas shouldn't get financed.
Yeah.
Or whether or not they're good or bad ideas may not be appropriate for third-party financing.
Yeah.
I think those people that have good ideas, have good experience, and have the means to execute on a business don't find it particularly difficult to raise financing here in New York. I think there are a lot more people, a lot more smart places to get money, a lot more places to go, and for the most part do a pretty good job of financing most of the good stuff here.
What do you think is the best thing about starting a company in New York?
The best thing about starting a company in New York, I think, is living in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a phenomenal place to live more than anything else, and I think your access to a really diverse set of people and diverse set of networks. I mean, the power of your network, I think, increases with the diversity.
Yeah.
If the only people that you know are other startup people, the likelihood that your network, it's sort of the power of the loose connections, right? The likelihood that your network is really going to help you out that much, both from a feedback perspective and from an introduction perspective, is probably pretty low. In New York, I just think of myself as, having grown up here, I mean, I know folks that are in the finance industry from what I worked in the technology industry. I teach up at Fordham's. I know a whole bunch of educational folks like Kayak, and so, and the potentially useful connections that come to me, particularly from a feedback perspective. If you're going to be a direct-to-consumer play, you're going to struggle if the only feedback you're getting is from your other tech friends who are all on Twitter and all blog, and you're only sort of thinking, one way about things. Secondarily, I love the community here. I think the community here is very open. I don't, I think sometimes in other areas you might feel like if you didn't work for certain companies or you don't have a certain pedigree, you're sort of not on the in here. And I think New York has a very kind of blue collar approach to, building companies. I think as long as you work hard and pay your dues and show that you're passionate about something, people are very, accepting of it. We're all kind of in this together, sort of help each other out.
You don't need a Stanford degree.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. A Fordham degree, but no.
Yeah.